This is the final preview of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. IGN got to play it. They invited some other smaller Xbox channels, Xbox focused channels out. They invited one guy that has a YouTube channel dedicated to Indiana Jones. Honestly, like I'm not totally sure what the point of these previews are if you're not going to invite like what I would consider to be more critical or skeptical people. Doesn't have to be me. Invite Skill Up, for example. You know, invite somebody like that. I'm not sure if he went. I don't think he did. But seeing like Xbox diehard fanboys who were saying that Redfall was going to be the next big thing, seeing them praise Indiana Jones does nothing to convince me. It just doesn't. Like I see that and I'm like, okay, if anything, I'm less likely to think this game has potential. Like if anything, if those people are the ones hyping it up, I'm like, okay, well now I'm even more skeptical, looking at more suspicious. So I think Xbox needs to stop trying to cater so specifically to the 15 people that are dedicated to just Xbox coverage. It doesn't actually help them. I don't think they realize. I don't think they realize that. But let's see what IGN had to say about it.
The last truly great Indiana Jones movie came out 35 years ago. Since
How
then,
dare you.
pop culture's most famous archaeologists' last two big screen outings have been flops. In fact, Indy's best work since The Last Crusade has come in video game form. 1992's LucasArts point-and-click adventure classic The Fate of Atlantis, The Collective's excellent third-person action-adventure The Emperor's Tomb on PS2 and original Xbox in 2003, and more recently, the LEGO Indiana Jones games in 2008 and 2009. So no matter how you look at it, it's been a long time since Indy has showed out. And it's fair to wonder if the current generation of gamers even cares about Dr. Henry Jones and his relic-chasing, Nazi-punching escapades.
I think that's a very good question. I'm not so sure if Gen Zoomer cares about Indiana Jones. I mean, I just honestly, I forgot there was another Indiana Jones movie recently. Did anybody here see it? I forgot it existed until this moment. I know Crystal Skull, but what even was the new one? I don't even remember the like name of it. No idea. Nobody knows. Yeah, no, I have no idea. Bile of Dysentery. Dial of Destiny. Is that what it was? I don't know, man. I don't think Indiana Jones is as big as it once was. And I don't think that is even a controversial thing to say. So whether or not the brand carries this game, I really don't think so. If Avatar couldn't carry Frontiers of Pandora to success, and if Star Wars couldn't bring Star Wars Outlaws to success, I don't see how Indiana Jones can rely on Indiana Jones to carry it to success. It's all going to be about the game. And how good the game is. So I don't think it gets any bonus points for the brand, is what I'm saying, for the franchise. But let's see.
I'm here to tell you that after playing a few hours of Machine Games' Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, generations of gamers, both new and old, should care. Because as good as the studio's recent Wolfenstein reboots were, the Great Circle might be even better.
On next plane to Rome. Stop. Need help. Stop. Meet me in Vatican. Stop. Indy.
It's still crazy that that's Troy Baker. That's Joel from The Last of Us, and he sounds just like Harrison Ford. It's crazy.
Playing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle showed me, among other things, is that it's more of an adventure-action game rather than the typical action-adventure game. And it's absolutely not a first-person shooter. Yes, Indy has a revolver here. You can also grab rifles and German Luger pistols, but I used it exactly once the entire time I played. And when I did, the gun wasn't the only thing that got loud. It alerted everyone at the Giza dig site near the Great Pyramids, and Indiana...
Man, am I the only one that gets like super like motion sick seeing people play first person stuff with a controller when the FOV isn't high? Like I need the FOV at like 110. Otherwise I'm just, I can't do it.
Indiana Jones is no match for two armed bad guys, let alone several. In short, firearms are clearly a last resort in the Great Circle. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My hands-on session started at the beginning of the campaign at Marshall College, where Dr. Jones is, of course,
Dr.
a professor
Jones
of archaeology.
Archaeology is the search for fact, not truth.
I just love how they're like, Indiana Jones. How do we make him seem like a professor? Glasses. Give him glasses. That's all he needs. Like, good enough. The bow tie helps a little too. The bow tie helps. Yeah, that's true.
Indy's working late with his friend and colleague, Dr. Marcus Brody. A noise stirs him, and Henry investigates, with you controlling our hero as he walks down the college hall towards the source of the noise, finding broken glass and a display scattered along the way. Thus we come to the Great Circle's first puzzle, putting the fallen relics back on their proper shelves using clues in the displays.
The Bastet statue goes in the Egyptian section.
Once that's done, Indy encounters an extremely tall man wearing a talisman who takes something from the college's museum display, beats up our good doctor, and escapes, leaving the pendant around his neck behind after it tore off during his getaway. When a presumably concussed Dr. Jones awakens the next morning, he and Marcus suss out a lead based on the stolen relic.
He took the cat mummy, Marcus. But why?
And Indy quickly packs for the Vatican, bringing only his bullwhip, the pendant, a vinyl record for a friend in Italy, and of course, Indy's infamous fedora.
How weird is it? Like, it must be so weird for Harrison Ford to see himself now in a video game, but not himself, like himself from 40, 50 years ago. Like, that's gotta be so freaking weird. I don't know what I'm sure he's getting a big old payday, but they might also have it so it's like, you know, Lucasfilm bought the rights to his likeness, so he's not even getting paid for this. It's just, it's got to be weird. It's got to be weird. But it's also like, you are Indiana Jones. You can't really recast it. So it's just such a fascinating thing to be such an iconic face, you know?
The gameplay during the Vatican mission reminded me of a classic game I didn't expect the Great Circle to tap into, but I certainly didn't mind. Thief. I suppose the nighttime setting and classic Italian architecture contributed to that vibe, but it was more so the fact that stealth is the dominant approach here. Along with the fact that there are a whole lot of doors to find keys to unlock, valuables to backtrack to later, and hidden items and information all over the place.
Now, what do the black shirts want with the Vatican?
While Indy's fists are his prime...
What was that? What was that?
Now, what do the black shirts want with the Vatican?
While
You are in full view. And then the guard's like, did I see something? What was that? If it's really stealth heavy, the AI is going to be like super, super crucial. And I mean, I would think that they were playing on journalist mode. Oh, that's funny. Or they had a dedicated mode, because this is the Alien Isolation guy that didn't like the Alien Isolation AI. So maybe that's so funny if they... Oh man, that would be really fun. Can you imagine how triggered people would get if a game like this had, instead of very easy, they set it to journalist mode, or it's like very easy parentheses journalist mode? They get so triggered. You'd see people giving it like a 4 out of 10 because, like, honestly, the destabilization in games media that this is attempting to do is really harmful. It's like, I mean, yes, I did play on journalist mode, but still really, really insulting. It's so stupid. Anyway, this game is going to be dependent, I think, a lot on AI quality. And like, I've played a number of first-person stealth games. Like we were just talking earlier about Dishonored. This would normally be just, you are detected. No, like, slowly loading suspicion. Like, you are in full view. You are in the doorway. So already I'm like, uh-oh.
Indy's fists are his primary weapon in the Great Circle.
Sure you did your best, champ.
I quickly learned that it's best to get something in his hands whenever possible.
Giggity.
As sneaking up from behind with a sufficiently potent object can yield a one-hit stealth takedown. I say object, by the way, since most of what I picked up weren't proper weapons, but instead things like brooms, violins, guitars, shovels, a pipe wrench, a frying pan, etc. Even more fun was using the push button to send bad guys crashing spine first to the ground below from great heights when encountering them up on ledges, of which there are many at the Vatican, apparently.
All right, pal, you asked for it.
Indy can punch, strong punch, block, shove, and use his whip to stun enemies or knock the gun out of their hand. It's a simple system that works quite effectively in practice. And to once again reference Thief, you can pick up the bodies and hide them in dark corners to prevent other patrolling padres from discovering them. Note that you can't get too far though, as carrying heavy adult humans around over one shoulder tires Indy out, quickly spending his stamina. Fortunately,
I don't know, man, there's something about this. I'm trying to figure out what it is. There's just something about it that just looks a little off. I'm trying to figure out what it is. I don't know, if you know, put it in chat. I'm curious, but there's just something here that my brain is like not liking. I don't know.
The Great Circle packs an upgrade system that lets you spend the adventure points you get from thoroughly exploring each environment and discovering secrets, and later taking pictures of notable sites. You'll discover books that contain said upgrades, but you'll need sufficient adventure points to actually apply the new skill. Punch Out, for example, replenishes your stamina when an enemy is knocked out. I also used Lucky Hat a few times, which gives you a second chance when killed, in which you're on the ground, the screen goes black and white, and your fedora is somewhere nearby. If you can crawl to it in time, you'll get back up and be able to continue on.
That's at least a cute idea.
There's more of you.
In all, the upgrades fall into 5 categories: survival, fitness, packing, brawling, and combat, thus giving you incentive to not only fully explore each area, but to tailor Indy to your specific playstyle. The third and final section I got to play fast-forwarded me to Giza, Egypt, a bit later in the campaign. Here, Indy had already connected with Gina, an Italian reporter looking for her missing sister. Giza is wide open like an old Splinter Cell Chaos Theory mission. You can visit dig sites, a bazaar, and the Great Sphinx. And mercifully, street signs you find serve as fast travel points. You can highlight any area listed on the sign and you'll zip over there instantly, sparing you a lot of walking.
You guys know me. I'm a ancient Egypt stan. Yeah, exactly. Syntax. Whenever I see ancient Egypt or stuff from ancient Egypt, to be clear, I know this isn't ancient. This is 1940s or whatever. When I see this, I'm like, ooh, baby. I get excited. But it's gonna be interesting because Wolfenstein, obviously, like the studio is known primarily for Wolfenstein, and those games are first-person shooters through and through. So to see them targeting like what basically seems like a stealth game primarily is surprising. I understand why. I mean, it's Indiana Jones. It's not going to be super gun heavy or shootout heavy, but it's just an interesting formula for them to tackle, you know.
In choosing one area to explore, I successfully snuck my way around to the opposite side of a Nazi dig site that I needed to literally get to the bottom of, where the elevator was.
No one gets down to the tomb.
Only to find that its 2 sources of power were disconnected.
Why is this thing not working?
This led to 2 more stealth sequences into separate caves to get them turned back on. One of which let me sadistically fry some Nazis who were standing in a pool of shallow water with a wire I just brought to life. And another even had me swimming under.
Just gonna be real, fam. That electric effect looks like
brought to life.
Dog crap. What is that? It's like, I think BioShock had better electrified water, but it's not why you're playing this game. It's just funny that don't look good.
And another even had me swimming underwater, before finally getting to ride the reactivated elevator all the way down to the underground tomb. A stone glyph logic puzzle down there challenged me to place 3 round stone plates into their correct spots on a mural, triggering a beam of sunlight that shone across the room onto a wall. I picked up a nearby sledgehammer, bashed the wall a few times, and a hidden room was revealed.
And there's something behind that.
Inside was
Classic indie. Desecrating ancient sites.
the relic the Nazis were after, but Indy had beaten them to it instead.
Nazi idiots.
Unfortunately, I soon ran out of time before my demo session ended. It turns out I'd spent more time than I should have in my limited preview window exploring other paths, taking on side quests, and taking photos of Giza.
It is something, ain't it?
In other words, I spent a bit too much time adventuring. No regrets. As I said, it's clear now that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is more of an adventure-action game than an action-adventure one, but after a few hours playing it, I love it for that. The first word you'd likely associate with Indiana Jones is probably adventure, not action, and the Great Circle hones in on that. I'm absolutely smitten with the look, tone, pacing, and voice acting here.
I said, who is Father Ventura?
Shout out to Troy Baker for effectively pulling off a 40-something indie. What Machine Games has got going here is a very unique blend of gameplay. In fact, I talked in my first hands-off preview about how much Indiana Jones and the Great Circle reminded me of 2004's seminal first-person stealth adventure game, The Chronicles of Riddick: Escape from Butcher Bay, which not only proved that licensed games could be incredible, the opposite was usually the case back then, but it showed that a first-person game didn't have to be a shooter to be riveting. Butcher Bay was built by the same core group of developers that later founded Machine Games, many of whom are still with the studio, and that Riddick influence is just as evident when playing The Great Circle as it is watching it. I don't know if executive producer Todd Howard, who famously pitched this idea to Lucasfilm many years ago, had Machine Games in mind when he came up with it, but the pairing absolutely works, and I absolutely can't wait to experience the rest of Indy's latest adventure.
81 on Metacritic. That's my guess. I mean, to hear that they're like, oh, it's an adventure game with a lot of stealth, like, I'm not opposed to it. Obviously, like, there's some really good adventure stealth games, but I think clunky is the right term for it. There's hand-to-hand combat in first person is always just a little rough. It's just hard to make that look clean and tight. And then there's also sort of an incentive when you have a lot of stealth systems. You don't want the combat or the melee combat to be like super, super tight because you want people to pursue stealth. So you don't want it to be too powerful as a tool. Same with guns and all of that. So it seems like there's going to be a lot of crouching, sneaking around levels, things like that. So it's going to be a much slower paced game with occasional spurts of energy with big set pieces like the plane and the blimps that we saw, which is fine. But I think it's going to be a much slower game than people maybe initially anticipated. I'm not opposed to it, but it's just different than I was personally hoping for. But we'll keep an eye on it. It comes out very soon. It feels like we know very little about it considering it's like a little bit over a month away, you know, but we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to come down to the AI. I'm seeing some little tidbits that make me, it seems like the levels they explored, most of them are very wide open with only like one or two guys standing around. And for that, I'm like, you're not seeing how like the AIs are interacting with each other. Because that was the problem with Star Wars Outlaws, is if there was one character standing here and one character standing there, you knock out this guy with a punch to the face. This guy didn't hear it, even though he definitely should have. So like, I think that there's just a lot of little bitty things like that we're only going to get to see probably once more people get their hands on it or once the game actually is out. But we need Luke to do a full playthrough. I mean, I've kind of come to the conclusion that the odds are very low companies will want to send me review codes for stuff because it's high risk, high reward, sure, but I just think like, why risk it if you don't have to? And I think that a lot of companies are taking that approach. So I'll keep pushing for review codes, but I've kind of resigned myself to the idea that there will be few games that we do like day one reviews for, which is whatever. But I mean, it's like I've said, it adds confidence in consumers when you send your game to people who are more critical, people who are very vocal when they don't like something, because it's like, yeah, we are confident this game is going to be good. Check it out. Try to break it apart. like check it out. Yeah, nobody's entitled to review codes, absolutely. Which is why we'll still talk about the games. I'll still play the games. We'll just do it after the fact. But I'm also not gonna like glaze the company trying to get a review code. Like, I'm not gonna change how I talk about stuff. If I wanted to be on Sony's good side or Xbox's good side, I probably wouldn't make half the videos I make. Like that Concord video we posted last night, probably wouldn't have put that up. Probably would have sat on that if we wanted to make Sony happy. I've literally put out tweets and videos calling for like the firing of the current co-CEO of PlayStation. Like, I don't tend to be that quiet when I'm upset about something. So, you know, it just is what it is. He took my thing.